Welcome to the Lifting Lounge podcast. Join your hosts Josh Parkin and Jack Buffery as they give you the knowledge and the tools to take your physical and mental performance to the next level.
Yeah, I don't really think that you should be saying that about old people, but I mean, that's fine.
Look, it's nearly their time. It's absolutely fine. It does not matter.
Damn it. I wasn't expecting you to go with it.
How are we, man?
I'm good. I'm tired, but I'm good.
A night of gaming.
Yep.
We were going to have a night of gaming, but like tales of Jack and Kim and our exciting Friday nights last night, Kimberly very wonderfully cooked me a 2-hour spaghetti bolognese with lamb mince. As I requested. Wow. It was delicious. However, and we've both done this before, but last night was a particularly bad one. So it gets cooked in a big metal pan, and that metal pan gets put in the oven. So we then take that metal pan. So it gets cooked on the hob, and then it gets taken out of the so it gets taken off the hob, put in the oven for 2 hours to reduce down, simmer down, and stuff. Then it gets brought back out the oven and put on the top for dishing out. However, when you have a saucepan on top of the hob, you don't assume the handle is going to be nigh on 200 degrees hot.
Oh no!
All I heard was a tss as she grabbed hold of the handle last night. So yeah, she's got a bit of a bad burn, bless her. But we've both done it before because that thing does come out roasting hot, and you kind of forget that it's just come out of the oven because it's just the saucepan sitting on top of the hob. So bless her, she sacrificed the use of her hand to provide me dinner.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow.
So thank you, Kimberly, for your sacrifice. It didn't go unnoticed. So yeah, we were going to be gaming. The reason I say that is because we were going to be gaming last night, but she couldn't because she couldn't use her hand.
Is it that bad?
Yeah. I asked her. I just woke her up and asked her how it felt this morning, and she said it feels fine, so hopefully it'll be all right. But she spent literally about 45 minutes of it gripping a cold, wet towel in a bowl of water as well, so hopefully that helped soothe it a bit, and then put some like burn cream on it as well. But yeah, luckily it didn't go through, but I was sitting about 3 meters away, and I heard the sizzle as she grabbed hold of the handle, like on her skin. It did not sound nice at all.
Bless.
But on the plus side, it was like a delicious meal. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah, well, I mean, he had just a bit of flesh in there, so lamb and Kim,
lamb and Kim bolognese is absolutely fine. But anyway, enough of our highly exciting Friday nights. Josh, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Facebook group?
Yeah, so we have a Facebook group, and our Facebook group is called The Lifting Lounge. And on this Facebook group, you have accountability threads, you have live training from me and Jack every Monday night, and then we also give away some free information, whether that's a plan or a free tips or free help protocol the next day. We also have lots of interaction from everybody who's trying to get better at fitness. Also is a little bit geeky. Then come and join the Lifting Lounge Facebook group, and it's free.
It is free. And also, I try not to laugh. I had a really bad joke come into my head when you said free tips, but yeah. I was going to say I haven't even taken 2 yet, but free something else. Also,
he has
skiing. Also, guys, when we do anything new, not new in that regard, for fuck's sake. When we release, it's gone. This is like setting the tone for this fucking episode. When we release new things, be that programs or advice or anything like that, we will announce it first on the Facebook group. And Josh, just so you can satisfy my curiosity and the people watching this, why are you holding, as you were yesterday, a piece of coat hanger?
Do you know what? I don't know if it's just because it's my lack of attention with everything, but it's just on my desk.
I think
and
you're
I
just
just keep
pretending to
picking
be
it up.
Captain Hook. I noticed it yesterday as well. I just didn't bring it up. Okay.
I'm terrible for like things. And if there's anything there, I don't even realize. I think that's why I played the drums, because I just like
You got something in your
tapping
hand, yeah.
and
To be
I
fair,
just,
I'm not much different. I've got
yeah.
like a Royal Marines coin, some change, and my D&D dice in front of me, and yeah, they all like get fingered at some point. But yeah,
Jack loves the finger.
join our Facebook group, guys, if you want to after that tangent.
It's good, though.
Guys, we also have the RDA system, which is primarily our one-to-one coaching system. We have a few clients already. The spots are limited, but the most important thing to realize about this is that wherever you are in your fitness journey, whether that is 100% complete beginner or you've been lifting for a few years already but just don't know where to go next, or just want that coach's eye to help you out, the RDA system is the one to take you from where you are to where you want to go, but taking all your lifestyle factors into consideration. Okay, so we don't just leave you with a program and tell you to get on with it. We are there every step of the way, and we include lifestyle, nutrition, and general habit coaching as well with that.
Yeah, definitely. It's awesome. We've already got a few clients onboarded, and like Jack says, we've got limited spaces because there's only so much time in our day. So we're only taking on a certain amount of clients currently. So if you want to get in on that and you want to get working, then come and join us and let us know.
And God, that reminds me. So you always see these things on Facebook. It's like, oh, limited, only 10 spots and stuff like that. But like, genuinely, we are running out of time. we just do not have enough time in a day.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is why we are saying limited spots on this one. But yeah, it's well worth it. People are getting results and they're loving it. But let's move forward, Josh. Let's go on to...
Yes.
Oh, yeah, good subject. I forgot about this. Let's move on to this. I like it.
So, I mean, I'm assuming you're talking about my tip, Jack.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, shit. I was going straight ahead to Geek Corner. Yeah, let's talk about your tip. I forgot we hadn't even got there yet. It's
Dude,
easy to miss your
come
tips,
on,
don't
man.
worry.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I think, right, we need to make a new rule on this podcast. Every time you miss a section of the podcast that you're meant to do, yeah, you need to do like 5 burpees.
That's fine, isn't that's like the first time I've done it.
We got video now. Yeah, we got video now, so there's no reason why not. Every time you miss a section that we're meant to go over, because people expect it. People are waiting for you to do a terrible tip joke, and you just ruin somebody's day because you didn't do that.
I really have. It's okay. Look, at the end of the day, your tip is about negatives, and I'm a positive person, so that's why I skip over the negative shit. also, when it comes to tips, I expect you're used to negative experiences and it going down. So, you know. Terrible jokes done. You may commence with your tip.
Mate. Don't push it. Don't push it.
Hey, at least I can. Go on.
Right. So now Jack's semi-redeemed himself. My
Fuck's sake.
My tip for today is, if you can't do push-ups or pull-ups, then try negatives first. So focus on negative reps first. If you don't know what negative reps are, it's where you only do the lowering portion or the eccentric portion of the reps. What that means is, for push-ups and pull-ups, push-ups is just the lowering down to the ground. And for pull-ups is the, once you're already at the bar, the lowering down portion of the rep from there. So the reason we do that, and we do this a lot with a lot of our clients, is get them to do these first, because that still improves your strength. And that will still make you stronger, and is a lot easier to do. And then if you get really good with push-ups, for instance, lowering yourself down all the way to the ground really slowly for a full range of motion, And then if you can get to the point where you can get to the floor and then pause, it won't be that long till you can do a full push-up. It's the same with pull-ups.
Yeah, so when you're doing the negatives, the negative is what we call the eccentric portion. So you got the bit where you contract the muscle, that's called the concentric, and you've got the bit where you lengthen the muscle, which is called the eccentric. And the eccentric is where the majority of the strength gains and the muscle gains come from, because it's the bit that does the most damage to the muscle, and it's the muscle reparation that makes us bigger and stronger. It's not the actual contraction side of things that makes us bigger and stronger. So that's a great tip. One I'm surprised we haven't covered before, actually. But yeah, it's definitely we haven't. But yeah, focus on that negative. I will do caution on the push-ups though, because make sure with the pull-ups it's a bit harder to cheat, although most people kind of do use the wrong muscles. I would say you want to make sure you're nailing into your back as much as you can, as well as your arms. But with the push-ups, one thing I keep on seeing recently is like people bobbing for apples. Make sure that you're lowering your chest to the floor, not lowering your head and your hips to the floor, because that's not a push-up. I see so many people like reaching for the floor with their forehead. Don't do that. Make sure you're keeping your spine nice and aligned, and just lower your chest to the floor as slowly as possible.
Yeah, one way to stop that kind of head forwards push-up where you're pushing your head forwards, I call it a blowjob push-up, and that generally stops people from doing it.
It is true. I called out one of our workshoppers for that the other day, and she was like, literally, I referred to it as that, and yeah, she stopped doing it pretty much straight away.
It was good. That's good.
So yeah, you can probably visualize now, guys. I'm definitely not going to give a demonstration live on camera about how that looks, but yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, no, definitely, it's definitely a good idea. No blowjob push-ups, just normal negative push-ups. So yes, guys, if you're wanting to get better at push-ups and pull-ups, focus on the negative portion of the rep and get that super slow, super controlled.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we'll move on to Geek Corner. And my Geek Corner for today is they've cast the new Superman and Lois Lane in the DCEU. And I going to go into the DCEU a bit more because a lot of interesting things have transpired since the Flash has come out. So, but the new Superman is a guy called, and I'm going to pronounce this completely wrong, is David Corenswet.
Yeah.
And if you Google a picture of him, I've kind of recognized the guy, but I'm not sure what from. But
he reminds me. Go on, sorry.
He looks like Henry Cavill's younger brother.
Yeah, I would say he looks like a cross between Henry Cavill and Chris Evans a little bit. I can't he's got the jaw of Chris Evans, but there's another picture I'm looking at here where the jaw of Henry Cavill, sorry, but with the eyes of Chris Evans in the photo I'm looking at right now. I think it's a good choice. I wonder if they're going to bulk him up, because he's nowhere near as big as Henry Cavill was. Like, he's a long way off that in the pictures I'm seeing.
Yeah, it'd be interesting because the two of them, Henry Cavill, and then so Lois Lane is Rachel Brosnahan, and the two of them look quite young. So I don't know if they're going to start them off younger.
I think that was the goal. I remember James Gunn saying a few months ago now that they're looking to cast younger people. And I think it's the same for Batman as well, which is why all of the people that were being touted to be it are probably not going to be the ones that everyone's thinking, because they want to do it younger. And this seems to be a common trend at the moment as well. So they're doing the same with James Bond. They want to make it a younger people, like people in their late 20s to early 30s, I think, so they get more life out of it. And this speaks to James Gunn's plans with the DCEU. I think he wants to make this like a Marvel thing and have these characters in it for like 10 plus years, because I mean, Marvel's 15 years old this year in terms of the first Iron Man film. So, you know, Robert Downey Jr., when did Endgame come out? That was actually, that was like
it
was a few years. 2019, was it? 220.
Yeah, let me look.
Yeah, anyway, I think it might have been 10 or 11 years that Robert Downey Jr. was playing Iron Man for, and same with the other actors that were still playing it for that amount of time. So he's probably looking for actors to get that longevity out of, which makes sense why Henry Cavill didn't stay, because if they're looking to do that amount of time, then he'd be like 50 years old by the time it comes to it.
So yeah, just looking at here. So Endgame was 2019, so just before COVID. They got lucky, and then David Corenswet. I'm looking at a photo comparison between him and Henry Cavill. David Corenswet actually has a better jawline, so that might be good for him.
Great, that's gonna be another girl that. Oh yeah, I can see it now. I'm looking at it in Paris, and that's gonna be another one that Kimberly fancies. Then she loves Henry Cavill. We were watching The Witcher last night, but that's for next episode.
Yeah. I need to watch. I haven't seen season 3 yet. I need to start watching. Is that out yet? Season 3
came out yesterday. Yeah.
I need to start watching that. And then also, I've just seen on Google. There's just all the articles and the Jewish Chronicle. I love the title here for the new Superman. It says, "New Superman is nice Jewish boy David Corenswet."
Great, that's good. He's weird. In some pictures, he even looks like the dude from 50 Shades of Grey, whose name I can't remember. And then in other photos, he looks like the guy who played the guy whose face got fucked up in the first season of The Punisher, and then he becomes the bad guy, Ben Barnes, I think. He looks like so many different actors. But yeah, I think he's a good choice. He looks good. He's got that all American kind of look about him for Superman. Like, best of luck to him. What about Lois Lane? What were we reckoning about that actress? Because I don't know either of them, so I haven't got a fucking clue. I haven't seen The Marvelous Miss Maisel, although I've heard it's really good.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm exactly the same. I don't really know either of them at all, but apparently Marvelous Miss Maisel's really good. I imagine she's great. And people are going to hate me for saying this, but I don't think really you need to be like a Oscar-worthy Leonardo DiCaprio style actor to be in a superhero movie.
No, not at all. Yeah, I think they're gonna bring what the crowd wants either way. So that's it. Like, fair play to them. They're gonna use it. It's gonna launch them into all sorts of other things and into the stratosphere. So fair play to them.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. However, before I move on to the next bit, I'd like to talk about the DCEU because what do we think about? So they carried on with the Flash, even though Ezra Miller is a bit of a dirtbag, and they kind of hedged all their bets on it. And by the looks of it, the Flash is flopping, from what I've heard. And I'm going to quickly double check that. But from what I've heard, the Flash did not do well. That's what all the
articles are saying, isn't it? But yeah, is that actually true? I don't know. So for me, there's been a lot of people on the right in the American side of things that are saying the only reason he was allowed to carry on is because of the whole gender identity politics kind of thing, because he identifies as a they. If he'd been if he'd identified as a straight male, he probably wouldn't have got away with it. Now, I'm not going to get into that politics side of things or anything like that, but you look at the Jonathan Majors thing that's happening in Marvel, and he was getting crucified, although it looks like his accuser is now getting arrested, and his whatever was going against him, he's getting away with. But then you look at the Ezra Miller thing, there is full-on video footage of you seeing him assaulting fans and stuff like that, and Warner Brothers stuck by him. And that might just be the difference between Warner Brothers and and Marvel, because at the end of the day, when Marvel kicked James Gunn out with all that controversy with the tweets, that's when Warner Brothers took James Gunn on in the first place to do that Suicide Squad film. So maybe they're just more happy to take risks with their content creators, but it doesn't look like it's paying off very well. That's all I'm going to say. There's the Flash doesn't seem to be doing well. Have you actually got numbers there? Because it says on the first article I've just got up is the Flash is a major box office flop, which is on pace to lose hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah. So let's start with the numbers. After its second weekend, the Flash has grossed $210.9 million worldwide, which isn't that much because it also says here it had a budget of around 200 million, not counting marketing costs.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, so that's not good.
It's not doing too well. The likes of The Batman, which grossed 766 million, and The Joker, 1.07 billion.
Really?
Did
Holy
really
shit.
well. And they, you know what I mean? And they're not connected to DC's future.
Mm.
So, yeah, this article goes into a lot of things. It's saying that it might just be superhero fatigue. It could be. There's a lot of reasons. A lot of key moments were already leaked online about major Batman cameo and stuff like that. So, yeah,
it'd be interesting to see.
I didn't go and see it, so I wasn't. I'm one of those people.
Yeah, me too. I'm really not that fussed about it at all. I think we spoke about this on a previous episode. One thing I wish I did know is what James Gunn's plan was for the future and how now this is going to affect it, because this was supposed to be the bridge between the old DC EU and the new one. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see it. The people I feel sorry for in this, and I don't know if it's worth feeling sorry for them because I haven't seen the film, I don't know what their performances are, but the fact you've got like the new Supergirl, who else is in it? I think there's a couple of other new people in it as well. But does that now mean that their future is fucked? Do you know what I mean? Because they are now associated with that massive flop of a film. Does that mean now that they're going to get... It's like, oh no, actually you didn't work out, so off with you now. Yeah, it could be interesting to know.
Yeah, I think that they're going to go ahead with their plan anyway. James Gunn is going to go ahead and do his thing either way. And if Supergirl was a part of that, he's going to carry on doing it. I think they might put this off as like it was the last of the Snyderverse, so that's why it was shit. And that's how they'll play it, probably. Even though we all know that Zack Snyder didn't have full kind of control anyway. So yeah, I do think superhero fatigue is becoming a thing. So it's gonna be interesting. I hope that James Gunn takes it in a complete new direction. I like the idea of him starting younger, and I watched the Suicide Squad actually for the first time the other day, the newer one.
Oh yeah,
and I really liked that. I thought that was fucking hilarious. But it was a completely different direction from what they've been doing before, and didn't take itself too seriously, which I like. But I think we're all the same. We're all getting potentially a bit too tired of superhero movies. I'm just not that fast. I'm actually getting more into spy movies.
And me too. Yeah. So I've said this again. I'm really looking forward to Mission Impossible. Like, I can't wait for that. At the moment, I'm watching Jack Ryan, which is a new season on that, but I'll get into that next episode. That being said, if a new Batman film, i.e. the sequel to the Batman that came out a couple of years ago, was to come out tomorrow, I'd be lining up at the cinema to watch that, because that is a very different take on this superhero thing that is very different. But again, I haven't even seen Guardians of the Galaxy 3 yet, which I already know is great, but I think it speaks to that superhero fatigue. I'm definitely going to watch it. I think it comes out next week on demand of when this episode airs. It might already be out to pay for, not to stream for free. I probably will rent it so I can watch it before it comes out, because I think it doesn't come out till August otherwise. But in terms of anything that I know about that is coming out anytime soon, there's not really anything superhero related that I'm 100% like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm going to go watch that.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the next Marvel one is Marvels, which I'm not that bothered about.
No, that's what I mean. Like, I think Marvel seemed to have lost its way. Although Quantumania although it was a decent enough film, it wasn't the best by any means. Although that does seem to have brought it around to being back on track. I wonder whether them getting it back on track a bit more and a bit more focused on the big bad will be reason enough for me to want to pay attention more. I think it was just the going off that track that made it not so much. Does Guardians 3 at all feel like it's going to feed into anything bigger in the bigger picture or not?
Not particularly, no.
Okay, yeah. So again, I wonder whether that will change my opinion because, as you know, and as the listeners probably know, if they've listened to other episodes, for me, one of the big attractions of these things is the lore behind it and how it connects to the bigger picture. And if they start doing that might bring me a little bit closer in. But in terms of the DCU, we know they fucked that up from the very beginning. I liked Man of Steel. I thought that was a great film. And then it just went downhill, unfortunately. I enjoyed the Snyder cut of the Justice League, that 4.5 hour thing. I thought that was actually quite entertaining. But yeah, unfortunately, I would love to have seen what they would have done with the Snyderverse if they'd have continued doing that. But as it was, no, I'm not fussed. Aquaman 2 is still supposed to be coming out as well. So we'll see how that fares.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope it does better, but also, I mean, I'm also not really that fussed. I'm going to start watching other stuff, I think. Guardians was really good. Guardians, I think they did a villain right for the first time in a while, and the villain was phenomenal. And everybody's saying that, like, he did really well. Everybody was saying, actually, that the High Evolutionary, who's the villain in that, should be the guy to play Kang.
Oh, really?
Because he was that good.
Okay.
Yeah. It was really good.
Okay, I will watch that. Yeah.
Anyway, moving on from the superhero stuff.
Just one more thing.
I got a couple more
something.
geek things.
Oh, go on. So, can I just add to the DCU thing? So, I don't know if you know this, but Batman Returns, which came out in 1992. So, this made me think of this with the Supergirl thing. I remember reading this a long time ago. If they decide not to go forward with using that Supergirl anymore, I wonder what her contract is, because in 1992 for Batman Returns, Marlon Wayans was from like the Scary Movie films, was supposed to have been Robin in that. And he still gets paychecks to this day for that film because he was cast in it. I don't know if he filmed any scenes in it or not, but he was cast from it, signed a contract, and was never in the film, and he still gets paid for it to this day. So
wow,
so that's like an insight into how the movie business works. So that was 31 years ago that he's still getting paid for that film 31 years ago that he was never in, which is insane. So I expect DC's learned from that.
That's awesome.
It is more awesome. So go and carry on.
So have you? I don't know if I've ever asked you this. Have you ever watched all the Stranger Things?
I have. I love it. I reckon it's fucking amazing. For me, it's pure nostalgia because I'm an 80s baby. But yeah, it is great.
Yeah. Well, they have cast Linda Hamilton from Terminator for Stranger Things 5.
They have. I saw the announcement. I can't remember what it was on now, but she came on this massive screen. Oh, it was the Netflix to Dumb event. She came on this massive screen and said she was joining the cast of it. And I like that because Linda Hamilton, she stepped away from Hollywood for a long, long time after Terminator 2 because she didn't like it. Like, she didn't like the way Hollywood worked. And then she's come back and she's actually seems to be doing several things, which is great. Yeah, I wonder what she'll be. I haven't got a clue.
Yeah, we don't know. I was just looking that up now. We haven't. It doesn't say who she's going to be, but it could be cool. I wonder if she's going to be a villain. Because the thing is, she'd be perfect as like a trailer park mom in Stranger Things. You know what I mean? She'd be perfect there. But also at the same time, she'd be a good villain if there was a villain, a new one.
So by complete coincidence, I watched the Arnold thing on Netflix, which also I'm going to talk about in the next episode. But because of that, that made me rewatch the last Terminator film that she's in as well. And I was like, yeah, she's a fucking badass still. Fair play to her. And you're right, she could be a villain. She could be like almost like a Terminator-esque role where she starts off as a normal woman who realizes that within her is a badass that can start fighting like the bad shit that happens. I'm interested to see what's going to happen with Stranger Things season 5, because if they don't have a time jump, I mean, they're not realistically kids anymore, are they? Let's be frank. They are. I don't know how old they are, but they are. They won't be able to pull off the teenage vibe so much anymore. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
Yeah. So am I. I think it's going to be good. Is it going to be the last season, do you think?
But apparently there's spin-offs happening. So, yeah, I think they've got, because, what franchise doesn't have spin-offs now? I think it's going to be last season. I think I heard something about a time jump, which would be interesting because it's going to be coming into the 90s now as well, which is, that's my favorite decade. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that is.
Nice. Perfect. So we've been talking on Geek Corner for ages. So do you want me to do this last question or should we move on?
Yeah, let's do it. I've got a really simple answer for it.
Okay. Who do you think would win in a fight? I love these questions. Superman or Hulk?
Superman. Like, as much as I would love to say the Hulk, right. Superman could just literally grab him, fly him into space, and throw him like millions of miles away.
Whereas the Hulk can survive in space, though, I think.
He can, but like if Superman just throws him in the right direction, maybe into the sun, once you've got momentum in space, nothing stops you. So unless you get hit by gravity. So like Superman is, I always think to Superman Returns, that film with Brandon Routh, where he literally flies up into the sky with a fucking island built of kryptonite on his shoulders. Not only is he like flying it up, but it's built of kryptonite. The thing that like he's just he's way too strong for anyone. That's one of the reasons I don't like Superman so much. He's like too much. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a version of Superman as well that's like unbelievably strong because he literally goes into the sun because he gets his power from the sun. He goes into the sun, gains like unbelievable power, and then flies back and beats the shit out of someone. I can't remember which one it was, but yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll end that there because that's simple as that. Superman would definitely win.
Yeah.
I would love all the fucking comic nerds if they're ever listening to this, because I like comics as well. But if anybody is listening to this and says Hulk's winning, you're stupid.
Or you have to justify it with evidence.
Yeah. Evidence. Yeah. I'll fight you. Right. So, fit talk. Let's move on to our fit talk.
I really hope there's some nerdy fucking badass out there who's going to be like, I'll take you up on that.
Oh, there's loads of them.
Yeah,
there's loads of them, man. There's loads of them.
It'll be Zuckerberg. Right, let's move on to Fit Talk.
Our Fit Talk is nice and simple because we've got a lot to get through. But my Fit Talk for today is just a nice little question. And what's the hardest exercise you've ever done? And that doesn't need to be like a singular exercise. It could be a type of exercise. It could be like a specific session you did where you thought you were going to die. It could be anything. So what's the hardest exercise you've ever done?
Funny enough, the exercise and the session all come into one. I cannot remember what it was called, but I'd done a CrossFit workout and I've never been able to, which means I should work on it. I know I've never been able to do handstand push-ups. And so I couldn't finish the workout because it involved 5 rounds of that. I could do everything else fine, but the handstand push-ups I just cannot fucking do because I've got tiny shoulders apparently. But so that for me, that is the hardest exercise I've ever done, is a handstand push-up and any workout that requires me to do them for rounds in it.
But that's just a lack of ability rather than it being hard, though. Surely
it's also crazy hard for me. My overhead press relative to my body weight has never been massive. It's been okay, like it's an okay strength, but it's never been something that's exceeded like in relativity to my other lifts. I would say it's always been a lagging one for me.
Yeah, cool. I would say for me, and you probably have heard me say this before, but the hardest form of exercise I've ever done in my life is jiu-jitsu. 100%. That's the only form of exercise that's made me throw up multiple times. And there's kind of multiple reasons for this. There's one, the old gym we used to train at for jiu-jitsu, it was disgusting but amazing. It was in a little it was like you were in a basement.
Nice.
So there was no windows. There was just this one door that kind of led to a hallway, which led to another door, which then it was outside. So it was like you were like in a basement, and it was really small and cramped, like probably like not much bigger than my front room.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd have like 20, 30 of you in there fighting, and it would get so sweaty that it would steam up, and you couldn't really see the other side of the room.
Oh my God.
And then have to, yeah. And you'd have to spar and fight each other and they were 2-hour sessions. So you'd have an hour session in gi, and then an hour session in no gi. And then on the other day in the week, you'd have an hour session in no gi, and then have to put your gi on after already being like sweaty and disgusting. So put your gi on top and then fight people. And exercise has only ever made me throw up twice until I started doing jiu-jitsu, and now I've thrown up so many times I can't remember.
That's absolutely gross. I don't know if I've ever thrown up during exercise. If I have, it would have been a very, very long time ago, because I don't remember it. But yeah, that's fair, because that's like hard on all the levels, isn't it? Physically, mentally, all of those, like, because your brain's thinking tactically the whole time as well. So that's why I'm looking forward to getting into this a little bit more.
And it's the heat. It's the heat, and also because a lot of the time you're so constricted. You're like, there'll be times where you have like your whole head's covered by an arm and a body, and you don't really have anywhere to breathe. But you're trying to breathe because you're like your cardio and your muscles are fatigued, and you can't. And it's just like, oh fuck! So you're lacking in oxygen. It's hot as fuck. I'm sweating, and then once you get out of a situation that you're trapped in, you need to then like explode and move fast to like try and get the better position, but you're fucked. So it's like ultimate fatigue. And then what usually happens is after you finish a round of sparring. So you'll finish a round of sparring, and then I'm like, you don't realize how fucked you are. You stand up and then go, oh, okay, now I'm gonna throw up, and then you just run to the toilet.
In that environment as well that you just described, in that, like, it basically sounds like fighting in a sauna. That's disgusting, because just doing it outside, like we were in an outdoor gym that we were doing the other day, that got hot, man. So in a room like that, I can't even imagine what that would be like. That's gross.
No, it's not nice.
So yeah, that is my fit talk for today. That's my hardest exercise. If I was gonna go like pick an actual exercise, for me, it's anything with kettlebells, like kettlebell clean and presses, stuff like that. That blows me up. I hate it.
I love kettlebell. We were doing some with one of the camps last night, actually, and it was making me think I need to, because I don't like running, and plus I've got a freaking dodgy knee at the moment, which is a pain in the butt, makes me feel old. But I was coaching the kettlebell stuff last night, and I was like, yeah, I should really introduce some more of that stuff to my conditioning programs. The only problem is I haven't got any at my home gym, so I have, but they're shit. I've got a 24 kilo one, which is solid iron, but the handle on it's really thick. And other than that, I've only got 2 8-kilo bells. So yeah, I think I might have to start doing some conditioning circuits with the kettlebell at the gym, because they are really good. They're really good for different ranges and stuff. So I like it. I do like kettlebell stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I think I should probably start doing a bit more of that as well. So moving on now to study time. I'm going to put our lab coats on, and today I've gone for a more fitness-based study. We normally do something on health or new tech that's coming out, all of that sort of stuff. But today I've gone actually more into the fitness realm. And this one, mainly because I think this is quite interesting. A lot of the time, people talk about how you shouldn't train to your max all the time. You shouldn't be, failing. You shouldn't be training to failure all the time. And actually, this is kind of taking the opposite stance. And the title of this is from, if anybody knows the website, it's called Stronger by Science. Stronger by Science is a great website in terms of recent studies to do with strength and fitness resistance training. And there's a guy called Greg Nuckols who does a lot of the research articles, and he kind of reviews the research. I would say to most people, to be honest, like he writes it in such a scientific way, it can be a bit complicated and kind of blow your mind a little bit, and it's kind of hard to read. So I'm going to kind of skim over the kind of what it is here. But generally, what they're saying here is most lifters probably train too light. And a recent meta-analysis by Steele and colleagues investigated effort in resistance training, and the results were pretty surprising. So a recent what this study has found is that most people generally do not lift enough weight. They generally, if they when they figure out their 1 rep max, they're lifting really light. They're lifting in like 40% of their 1 rep max, and then just kind of going to 10 and going from there. So the primary meta-analysis found that the typical self-selected load was 53.14% of 1 rep max. In fact, most of the individual studies produced very similar estimates. In spite of differences between the rep targets and the instructions provided to the subjects, the point of estimates for 17 of the 18 studies fell within the tight range of 51.35 to 55.15%. So they did a meta-analysis of loads of studies. And it's saying here that most people are generally only lifting about 50% of their 1 rep max of weight. When, especially in terms of strength, if you're wanting to get stronger, you need to be lifting like over 80, 70 to 80%. You need to be lifting high.
That's really interesting. I would have thought that would. I'm not going to lie. I would have thought that would have been the other way around. If I thought people would have been ego lifting more and less light, but maybe they're just egoing out on the reps instead of the weight. Is this accounting for volume as well, or is it just literally based on the weight they are lifting?
No, it is counting. It is counting for volume, and I think what it's saying is people are, because even on a hypertrophy basis, people are still not lifting heavy enough. They're lifting what they did in one test, which is the first paragraph here, is way back in volume 2 of Mass. Dr. Helms reviewed a study by Barbosa Neto and colleagues investigated how hard lifters habitually train. Researchers asked 160 trained subjects what load they normally use to perform sets of 10 reps on the bench press. Then the researchers had the subjects complete a set to failure with their self-selected load. On average, subjects completed 16 reps and more than a quarter completed at least 19 reps. Notably, 76% of subjects reported that their primary goal was hypertrophy, and 80% reported that they generally performed bench press as the first exercise in a training session, meaning they didn't select relatively light loads because they typically trained bench press when they were already fatigued. So it appeared that many of the participants self-selected loads that were likely too light for their primary goal. While you don't need to go to failure to maximize hypertrophy, you're probably leaving a lot of muscle growth on the table when you habitually train with 5 reps in reserve. And you're certainly leaving a lot of muscle growth on the table if you do most of your training with 9 reps in reserve.
This is really interesting. There is a lot in this article, by the way, just for the listeners, and this will be in the show notes, but there's a lot of stuff that there's like graphs and everything, and like you said, Josh, the writing is quite scientific. I want to go over this in more detail because there is a lot to this. The last paragraph, I don't know if it's in your notes to talk about this, but do you mind if I just reference that quick?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so basically he said, so Greg Nuckols, he's been in the strength world for such a long time. I remember they were going to have a strength app come out. I don't know whether that actually ever came out or not, but this is like going back 5-6 years ago. I haven't even caught up with what he's been up to since then, but it looks like he's been doing some real sciencey shit. So the last paragraph is, although I've consistently argued that you don't need to train to failure, which is something we talk about sometimes as well, to maximize hypertrophy, findings like those observed in the present meta-analysis and plenty of practical experience still lead me to believe that training to failure may be more advisable than scientific literature would suggest. In a vacuum, it looks like a fool's bargain. Training to failure probably doesn't lead to more growth on a per set basis than stopping 2 to 3 reps shy of failure, but it causes more fatigue and comes with a higher recovery burden. But training to failure does have one major thing going for it. Training to failure ensures you are putting enough effort into each set to attain a robust hypertrophy stimulus. There is a massive caveat I am going to say to anybody here who's listening to this and think, fuck it, right, I'm going to train to failure. The caveat is failure probably isn't what you think failure is. Failure is to mechanical breakdown. So you don't want to be lifting when your form turns to shit, basically. Failure means when you can't do another rep with good form. And of course, if you are doing that sort of lifting, make sure you've got a spotter because you'll get trapped underneath a bar otherwise. But that is interesting. Like, failure training is something I haven't done much of. Funnily enough, I'm looking into a new programming structure at the moment that is it's phased very differently than anything I've ever done before, which is kind of almost on a week-to-week basis, the same exercises, but 1 week you go to failure and the next is a bit more of a recovery one. So just to get over the fatigue from the failure week. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out because it is something I've never played with before. And I'll obviously keep everyone updated on that as well.
Yeah, it's so interesting because it makes a good point. There's a few things that this brings up of like concepts you should try. And it's saying in one of the other paragraphs, it says selecting 50 to 55% 1 rep max loads for sets of generally 10 reps is likely to leave most people with at least 10 reps in reserve for most sets of exercises, which is unlikely to produce much muscle growth. And this is really interesting because I found myself doing it recently. So for instance, my bench max is 130 and I'll pick up 60 on the bar and just start doing reps. And actually, that's less than 50%. And that's not really doing anything for me. It's not helping me in any way. And this brings up two concepts for people to train by. One is working off your max, so working off percentage.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of going to go into our next topic, but it's even for hypertrophy, not just for strength, working off your percentage. So making sure you're working off a higher percentage is good for hypertrophy, but also trying a reps in reserve approach.
Yeah.
And that's very hard for beginner lifters. So beginner lifters are never too sure. So that's why it might be good to do from failure so you understand how far you can go. And then once you get better at being more intuitive, a reps in reserve approach and going, right, I need to go until I feel like I need to stop when I feel like I can only do 3 more reps. So if you have 3 reps in reserve, I do 10, but I know I could have done 13. Great. That's a good approach to have because you know you're getting very close to failure, but you're not quite there.
Yeah, and I really like reps in reserve as a metric as well. I flip between the two of asking my clients, what's that on a scale of 1 to 10? And if they can't answer that, then I say, okay, how many more reps do you think you could have done? And that between those two answers, what they give, that's usually a good way to do it. And just if you are curious, our app, you can use reps in reserve as a metric as well when we are training people online with the RDA system. So just wanted to get that in there. But yeah, that's all really cool stuff. You're going to get me. As I've said to you just before we started recording, I haven't been on Stronger by Science in a long time, but this has probably just kicked off a nice little thing for me. I'm going to be scouring this website now for some decent stuff because I do like this sort of shit.
To be honest, it's also just a reminder for me that I'm probably not training hard enough, you know?
So the interesting thing is I think this is one of the things where we are very different because I'm probably too far the other way. I am the person that this article is not aimed at. I will pick up something probably too heavy and then see how many reps I can do that for and not hit my set, as opposed to the other way around.
I'm inherently lazy, so I will especially when it comes to training, I will do as little as possible in training, and so I need to I need something like that to push myself.
So am I. I'm inherently lazy as well, but for me, my laziness comes in. I'd rather do less reps than more reps. So that's quite funny. We're coming from the same place, but we both have different approaches to do less in a workout. And when we're saying do less and we're saying we're lazy, there is still that minimum effective dose, guys, which is why we still carry our strength, because we still get shit done, but we could probably push just a little bit harder.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's move on then to our hot topic. And our hot topic, I can't believe this is episode 54, and we haven't discussed this yet, which is ridiculous because we talk about it all the time and say how this is one of the most important things to focus on. We haven't told anybody how to do it.
Yeah, interesting.
So my hot topic today is how to increase your strength. And if anybody's been an avid listener this whole time, you're probably going to laugh at us because we've been talking about this for a long time. So my result for today is to make you stronger. I want to make everybody stronger. Everybody needs to be stronger, and that is the plan. The reason why is because we talk about it all the time and we haven't fucking explained it yet. So that's my driver for today. And the actions is we're just going to provide you with some simple concepts and little kind of base plan you can apply. Very, very basic, because obviously we're not training you. We're just giving you ideas here. So this is concepts for you to work by that generally work well for when it comes to trying to get stronger.
Perfect.
And at any point, Jack, throw stuff in, anything that you've got, because this is more of an open-ended discussion on how to increase your strength. But my first point is, if you're wanting to increase your strength, you need to be training within a 1 to 5 rep range. Because that rep range in training is where strength lies. And what I would suggest with people is not starting at 1s. Start with 5 reps and then work your way down over a 12-week period, or even over a 12-week period, just stick with 5s. That's fine. And the common programming you'll see people do, which is great and works at kind of all levels, is the 5x5.
Yeah.
Starting strength 5x5. That's something we've utilized many times. I would still do for myself. I still do with clients. 5x5 is a great place to start.
I'm training 5x5 at the moment. Like that's my own training. I'm 5x5 because we've got a lot going on right now. I want simplicity, and it still gets me because at the end of the day, the variance comes from the weight lifted, and I can change the rest breaks as well. 5x5 is an absolutely perfect way to start, and especially if you're a beginner, you will still get results 12 weeks on. Like the only lift I would say that might plateau, if you're doing the big 5 lifts, squat, bench, overhead press, some sort of row, and deadlift, the one that might plateau first would be the overhead press, but it's okay. You can just then deload and then reload for that a little bit, or just start to drop the reps a bit earlier. But all the rest, for 12 weeks, I would say you could pretty much consistently get forward progress on that.
Yeah, but for instance, like the simplest, like peaking plan, like the world's simplest plan you could do is you could do 5x5 1 week, 4x4 the next week, 3x3 the week after, 2x2, then 1x1. That is as simple as it gets. Now that doesn't work forever. That's just a really simple concept. But you want to be working in those lower rep ranges if you want to wanting to increase your strength. But, and this goes on to our next point now, you need to be lifting more weight. You cannot be lifting super light, just like this article we talked about previously. If you're lifting 50% of what you're capable of lifting, you're not going to be able to increase strength by doing 5x5. You need to be lifting relatively heavy. And now, if you do not know and you're not sure how much weight you are meant to lift, then try the reps in reserve approach that we discussed. So if you're doing 5x5, you want to be leaving 1 to 3 reps in the tank to be you don't want to be lifting a max 5 every time, because if you did 5 reps and you couldn't do any more and that was your maximum 5, you shouldn't be able to do multiple sets of it. So you should leave a few in the tank to be able to do 5 sets, for instance.
Yeah.
So that's what I would suggest to people. Don't be lifting light weights for 5 sets of 5. If you can do 10 reps, if you can do 15 reps, if you can do 20 reps, then you should be putting those numbers way up.
Have you heard of Tracy Anderson?
Nope.
So Tracy Anderson is a dick. She got really popular, really popular a few years ago, because she and Gwyneth Paltrow were just espousing some of the most stupidest shit that I've ever heard. She's one of those, you should not be lifting more than 4-pound dumbbells. And the thing is,
you're fucking kidding me.
Yeah, and she was saying stuff like, this will make the muscle appear lean without making you bulky, and that sort of shit. And this was literally within the last 5 years, I think. And it is just such bad information, especially when her target client audience is like mums and stuff like that, who are lifting up kids who weigh more than these 4-pound dumbbells. I just wanted to bring that up because this is for men and women as well when it comes to this approach. It is, you want to increase that weight, and you're only going to get bulky and bigger if your nutrition also matches that as well. And to be fair, if you do want to really increase the strength, you have to up the food anyway, but you're not going to get hench just through doing this alone. A lot of it will come down to nutrition. So don't be afraid of lifting those heavier weights. And I've met guys who don't want to be bulky because they want to keep that athletic look. But the thing is, you will keep that athletic look if you want to keep it. It's not actually lifting heavy that makes you bulky. It is the higher rep stuff. So this is perfect for like anybody. So just up that weight and see what they're capable of.
And also, if you're trying to lose weight, it still works, right? So my mother, right? And so this is going to get a lot of people, because there's a lot of people like, oh, I'm too old, I can't do it. Or I have never trained and it's been too long, I'm not going to be able to do it. Oh, I need to lose weight, so I can't do strength training, I've got to do something else. My mum ticks all those boxes, right? She's 54, I think, and she's only just started strength training, not with me, with another trainer locally who I know very well. And the other day, so she's 53, never really done strength training, definitely has some joint issues, definitely has some kind of issues there, and is trying to lose weight. She deadlifted the other day 80 kilos for 8 reps.
Very nice.
Pretty fucking strong.
Very nice.
Pretty fucking strong, right? And she's only, by the way, she's only like 5'3" or something. She's tiny. And she's also been losing weight. She's lost nearly 2 stone. And she's getting strong as fuck. So she's older. She's lifting weight. She's lifting heavy weights and she's losing weight. So she's ticking all the boxes of where we'll have most of the arguments against this. Yeah, most of the arguments against this is like, I'm too old, can't do it. I want to lose weight, so I can't do strength training, and all that bullshit. I've never done it before.
Sorry, how often is she training?
8 reps. She's training twice a week.
There you go. And there's another thing. And I bet it's like, that's an hour session each time. And yeah.
Yeah. She works for the fucking NHS, so she's busy as fuck. So you cannot, you know what I mean? So it's brilliant. I'll just give a quick shout out to the trainer, Jamie Webb, Strength and Conditioning. If anybody has heard of him, he works out of Falmouth, but he's a great guy. But yes, no. So any arguments you have, fucking my mum's kicking ass. so you can
And if
lift heavy.
anyone's
But you
wondering why
do
Josh
need
isn't
to lift
training his
heavy weight.
mum, then all you have to realize is that for a PT, training a family member or a spouse is probably one of the most frustrating fucking things you could ever do for all parties involved. So that is the reason Josh is not training his own mum. It sucks trying to train your friends, family, and spouses. So yeah, it's hard. Delegate that
there's also
shit.
that element of there's that element of if you pay for it, you're more likely to do it. And I'm never going to charge my mother, but then she's not going to be more likely to do it, you know? So
yeah, 100%.
She's paid for a service. She's dedicated herself to it. So moving on to the next point, and this goes in with the working in reps and reserve or working off percentages and will help with the lifting more weight, is to find your max lift. So if you don't know how strong you are or what your capability is, I would suggest to finding your max lift in a certain few exercises. The standard is squat, bench, and deadlift. And then there's some others you can add to that, like a row, an overhead press, and any other exercise maybe that you want to get stronger. Maybe you want to get stronger in dips, or maybe you I'm really enjoyed chest flies. I want to see what max is at. I wouldn't suggest that, but I mean, you can do whatever you want. I'm not your boss. So finding your max lift. What I would suggest first, before you find your max lift, is run a strength plan, like a 5x5 for 12 weeks, then find your max lift at the end of that, just because you gave yourself a foundation of strength and some kind of stability so you don't injure yourself straight away. But then find your max, and then once you've found your max, you can work off percentages for programs, which is be a lot easier, and you're more likely to gain more strength that way.
Yeah, and when we're saying this as well, when we're saying find your max lifter, this will kind of come into the next category, but we're assuming that your form is spot on now, because you don't want to be lifting as heavy as you can if you haven't got your form sorted out yet. So make sure that your technique is absolutely spot on before you try lifting your 1 rep max.
Yeah, definitely. And it doesn't even have to be a 1 rep max yet. It could be a 3 rep max. For instance, a 3 rep max here, if it's a definite max, so you couldn't do any more than 3 reps and you couldn't do it for multiple sets, that's a definite max, then a 3 rep max is 93% of your 1 rep max. So then we know there's lots of rep max calculators out there. So you just type in 1 rep max calculator and you type in what weight you did for how many reps, and it would tell you what your max is. If you did 3 reps and you couldn't move, so if you did 3 at 93 kilos and you couldn't do any more reps and you couldn't do any more sets, then your 1 rep max is 100 kilos. Simple as that.
I tell you what, guys, by the time this episode airs, we will have a 1 rep max calculator on our website. There you go.
Bloody lovely. Bloody lovely. Look at that. Aren't we just nice? We just supply shit to people. So the next thing, and as Jack's kind of already alluded to, is making sure you focus on technique efficiency. And this is, I say efficiency because we've talked about this before with bodybuilding and with strength training. If you're going for hypertrophy, the technique is more based around trying to focus on one particular muscle as much as you can and trying to fatigue that muscle as much as you can. Whereas strength training is trying to lift something as efficiently as possible, so then you can lift more weight. So focus on how to squat as efficiently as possible, how to bench as efficiently as possible, how to deadlift efficiently as possible. But then that technique needs to be dialed in from your warm-ups all the way to your max. It needs to be the exact same technique from your warm-ups all the way to your max. So then when you do a max lift, you're not questioning yourself. You're not thinking about it. It's second nature. You just pick the bar up, you go. Because a lot of people, we see it, a lot of people go to test their max and they're so busy thinking about all these different things and like questioning their technique that then they fail the max because they keep trying to change things. That needs to be second nature, so you can just focus on picking that shit up.
Yeah, and this is where running 12 weeks of those movements beforehand will really come into play, because that isn't just building the foundations and the stability and the strength. It's also just completely reinforcing what you need to do to get set up for those lifts in the first place, which, like you said, that's just going to nail everything in. It's going to make you as efficient as possible.
Yeah, definitely. You can we will probably put a series out on techniques for deadlifts and squats and bench and everything. You can find lots out of there. If you are looking for specific, you've got to be very careful with who you follow on these sorts of things and who you're looking for specifically. So I think maybe we should put out a little series on that, just on how to lift correctly. But yeah, it's making sure it's efficient so the lift feels easy, not that you're trying to find a specific muscle and burn that muscle out.
Yeah, perfect.
So moving on to our next point, and this is a given, really, but a lot of people might not know this, is to use compound exercises. Now, if you don't know what compound exercises are, they're kind of multi-joint exercises, what people call them, that are multiple muscle groups you're using at one time. So, for instance, a squat is a compound exercise because you're moving from the hips, you're moving from the knees, from the ankles, you're hitting your quads, your glutes, your abs, lots of different things. Whereas a bicep curl, for instance, is an isolation exercise because you're only bending at the elbow and you're basically just using your bicep. So we want to use more compound exercises when we're going through a strength plan, unless there's something really specific that he's working on. You want to be using predominantly compound exercises to build strength through multiple areas of our body, unless you're really just focused on getting a 1 rep max bicep curl, which there is actually a competition for that.
It's like you just read my mind. I'm like, I want to know my 1 rep max bicep curl, motherfucker.
Yeah, I think it's like CT Fletcher does it at like Muscle Beach in California, I think. And it's a 1 rep max bicep. It's ridiculous as well. You won't be able to do it. It's so hard.
They're literally like, they're bicep curling more than like an overhead press. Like, it's mental. It is insane.
But yeah, compound exercise is definitely the ones to focus on. So these multi-joint, multiple muscle group exercises, they're going to help increase your strength more.
And you got to, just so you know as well, like I feel like I'm constantly giving safety warnings at the moment. But one of the reasons for this as well is that when you're doing isolation moves, i.e. a bicep curl, the bicep curl I'd say is probably one of the safer ones. But when you're talking about doing things like flies and isolation things around the shoulders in particular, you'll put yourself at way more risk if you're trying to do like a 1 to 3 rep max, because you're isolating out much smaller muscles, and muscles in the joints can't always handle that kind of load unless you've been doing it for a long time and you know already what your body is capable of. So just be very aware of not trying to go too heavy on things like a lying down chest fly or anything like that, where it could literally pull your arms out your shoulders.
Yeah, definitely. So my last point here is to use free weights predominantly. So if you're wanting to increase strength, you kind of want to stay away. You don't want to stay away from them, but for your main lifts, you want to be using barbells, dumbbells, that sort of stuff, predominantly barbells, really, and staying away from the fixed resistance machines. The fixed resistance machines are great for hypertrophy and they're great for accessory moves, but more free weights are going to create more strength through stability. They're better for strength exercises, so use them predominantly. Try to not use the resistance machines for the strength exercises.
Yeah, and again, you're not going to fire off as many stabilization muscles that are going to help support the lifts on that. So cable machines and other machines can be great, especially for, like, say, hypertrophy. But if you're getting strong and it looks cool as fuck, just pick up some heavy iron or heavy rubber now most of the time, and just test yourself on those movements, and it has all those added benefits of increasing stability throughout the body and stuff like that. So there's not much that There's not many. We've done a whole episode on this. Not a whole episode. It might have been a fit talk. I can't remember. It was a while back. Can't remember what episode. But have a look for our back catalogue where we talk about machines versus free weights. So have a listen to that episode if you want to understand a bit more about where we're coming from on that.
Yeah, definitely. So they're kind of my main pointers for increasing your strength. It's all basic stuff initially. We're not going deep into the programming of strength and all the different types of programming you can use for powerlifting, all that sort of stuff, because that stuff doesn't matter right now. What matters is that you're training within the right rep ranges, you're using the right kind of exercises, and you're doing things right. And you will then you would easily increase your strength if you do this kind of stuff. What I would say, if we would give you any kind of program, is to follow a 5x5 routine. So you do 5 sets of 5 in the squat, the bench, the deadlift, the overhead press, seated row, all those exercises, and then try and improve. If you did that and all you added was 1.25 kilos to all the lifts every week for 8 weeks, for instance, your strength's going to increase. That's as simple as that.
Exactly,
and it's increasing
how I
the weights. Yeah, increasing the weights by a small amount like that is perfect. So that's all you really need to do if you want to start getting stronger. Just making sure you are lifting more weight with some reps in reserve, and that you're lifting in that lower rep ranges, and then making sure your technique is sound. Happy days. You're going to be doing well.
Yeah, perfect. And guys, we're looking forward to hearing your tales of strength. So if you decide to take on this kind of programming, just so you know, I am running a 5x5 at the moment, and the lifts I'm doing is pretty much what Josh said. I'm doing squat, I'm doing deadlift, I'm doing overhead press, I am doing a seated row, but you could do a barbell row if you want. I'm doing a lat pull down, but you could do a pull up if you want to do a weighted pull up for a 5 rep max. And have I missed anything off of there? Should be 6 moves all in all. Yeah, so 6 moves. So lat pull down, seated row, overhead press, deadlift, squat, and bench press. That's the other one. So I'm doing those 6 moves, split up over 2 workouts, and that's all it is 5 reps by 5 with 90 seconds rest between each set. And the goal is to add between 2.5 kilos and 5 kilos each week. If you can't, I would say give yourself 3 weeks of attempts and then deload if you still haven't got the next weight by then.
Yeah, definitely. And that's really simple. It's not hard at all. You will definitely increase your strength that way. It's definitely a good way to do it. And also, like you said, Jack, we want to hear about this. So if you're getting stronger, we want to see your lifts. We want to see you get stronger. Join our Facebook group, share that shit, because we love it. We love it. Yeah. Tag us on our social medias in any of your lists and your max. And if you need any help with the techers, just give us a bell and we will help you out.
Yeah, shoot a video, because there's people on there as well that have been lifting for a while, and they will obviously help with the form critique as well as us. So yeah, it'd be good to get some nice discourse going. And yeah, I think that's it for this episode.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Oh, I forgot what time it is. Give me 2 seconds.
What time is it, Josh? Is this leading to a joke, or
you know what time it is? You know what time it is, baby. You know what time it is. How do you make your girlfriend scream during sex?
I don't know. Turn on the lights. Usually for me works.
Call and tell her about it.
Oh dear. Amazing.
Yeah, my wife's gonna kill me.
Yeah, Kimberly, I didn't really laugh.
Yeah,
I love you. Right, guys. Josh, where can they find us?
So they can find us at the RDA Systems on Instagram, TikTok, RDA Strength System on Facebook. They can find the RDA System on Twitter. They can find us a Lifting Lounge on YouTube. They can find us at the Lifting Lounge group on Facebook. They can find our website at theliftinglounge.com or therdasystems.com. And we have a blog on our website now, so go check that out. We've got so much stuff.
We really have built, like, considering it's only started in January, we've got a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, guys, like on all of these things, wherever you can leave a review, please do it, especially on the podcast. Leave a thumbs up and subscribe on YouTube. Let us hack that algorithm and make the most out of it. And yeah, like and share this content with as many people as you can, because we're just a couple of normal guys trying to do good on this world, and you can help us do that.
Yep. Get on.
Awesome. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, bye-bye.
Bye.